Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Simon Blagden. I'm very proud to chair the proceedings, and thank you everyone for joining us and giving up the time on this incredible day. We're celebrating two things. We're celebrating, first of all, the launch of Selva's new book, and then secondly, more importantly, we're celebrating Selva's attainment of reaching 50 years. I can't believe you don't look a day over about 49, Selva. I'm being very rude. But without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Selva, the birthday boy, who's going to tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind his book.
Thank you, Simon, and thank you, Jeremy, for finding time to come on the launch, and thank you for writing the foreword in the book. And I also thank you, George and Maurizio, has been incredibly supportive in the process of writing the book and sharing ideas. And thank you for everyone who is here on the call today. Thank you for Darshini, who has been a great support for me throughout writing this book, and especially these actually started writing the book during the pandemic, and it's started on the 22nd of March. In fact, it's a birthday, and then everything started after that. And I thought, in our last Global Unity dinner, I said we are going to launch this book, and we wrote it on the back cover of my previous book, Thinking into Character. And I thought, oh my God, we've got to just get into action now and then get this going. And we are pleased, and thank you for the Regent team who has been behind this, particularly Caroline, Rasika and Claire, who thoroughly supported us, and thank you for Ronald, who introduced Claire to us. So lots of thanks. And then if I just sort of go into why and what's the reason behind it, I think for me, it may be Dad, but the true reason behind Dad is, as the book says here, desire, attitude, and decision. And some of the principles that we are talking about in this book stems from the work of Napoleon Hill. And I was inspired by this book a few years ago after my time meeting Professor Clayton Christensen in Harvard, and where Clay sort of posed a question, it changed my life. He said, Selva, you really need to understand the laws of nature. I mean, we are all looking at the man-made laws, and we must respect the man-made laws, whichever the country that we belong to, and for us is United Kingdom, and we must respect that. But there is more to it on the laws. And he said there's something called natural laws. You can choose to ignore it. And he said lots of people ignore it, not because they want to ignore, because they do that because of ignorance, not knowing those laws. And if you get that right, you can achieve whatever you want. And I thought, wow, that sounds very interesting. And he said, is it really true? And that's where the whole journey started. And I'm ever so grateful for Clay. Clay has passed away now in 2020, and I meant to go for his memorial, and unfortunately I couldn't because of the pandemic as well. So that's the sort of the background of it. And as the book says, it is a combination of sort of past memoirs, self-reflection, and a lot of science and psychology, neuroscience, and theory behind it. So I'm just bringing some humor, talking about Dad, but this is a hugely valuable piece of research. I would really like to give to the world and to everybody to try and understand and learn together. I'm not at all an expert on this. All I've done is I've put these things together in a logical manner, I believe, but love to sort of work with you in the future. And that's all I got to say, Simon, as a starting.
Selva, thank you very much indeed, and a very good introduction to, as you say, where the inspiration came from. Selva's already mentioned the fact that our key guest today, the Right Honourable Jeremy Hunt, wrote the foreword to the book, which was an incredible thing for Jeremy to do. I know that having known Jeremy a long time, he's always interested in the way people think and the way they come to making decisions and how they drive their life through the thought processes. So, Jeremy, perhaps you'd like to just give some reflections from you.
Thank you very much, Simon, and it's a great honour to be here and to contribute to the launch of Selva's wonderful book. And I think when you look at Selva's story, it really has the ups and downs that all of us have in our lives, but perhaps in an even more dramatic way. He grew up in a middle-class family in Sri Lanka, a very loving and supportive family. His life was all set, and then he had the civil war. He lost absolutely everything, and his family had to flee Sri Lanka for their own safety, and he arrived in the UK without a penny to his name. He then had to set up a business absolutely from scratch, and he did that with the backing. Oh, you may be able to hear some children in the background. These are the perils of working from home. But Selva set up a business from scratch, turned it into a hugely successful multi-million-pound operation, and at the same time as doing that, built a very strong family with that bond with Tarsini all around him. And then, as he was doing that, had to deal with the great sadness of losing his father in a very tragic accident. And I think when you look at all those ups and downs, what you see with Selva and what this book talks about is the power of education and learning, and what some people have called having a growth mindset, that idea that learning doesn't stop when you leave school when you're 18. It's something that continues throughout your whole life. And I think the Regent Group is a great example of that philosophy in action. Selva always tells his students that the purpose of education is not to get rich or to pass exams, but the building of character. And in that, he always reminds me of that wonderful saying by Anne Frank, who said some incredibly wise things despite being very young when she said them. But one of the things she said was that human greatness is not about wealth or power, but character and goodness. People are just people and all have their faults and shortcomings, but inside all of us is a basic goodness. And that emphasis on building character throughout your life was really the philosophy of Selva's father. And I think the message in this book is, yes, it's about the incredible value and importance of the laws of nature and overcoming adversity and going with the grain of your character and the opportunities that come your way. But it's also very personal, because it's about Selva, his relationship with his father, what he's learnt from his father. And I think it's impossible to read that book without each of us reflecting on what we've learnt from our own parents and how important that is in shaping our lives. And that's why I think this is not just a powerful philosophy, but a very powerful personal credo. So, I want to thank Selva for encapsulating all the wisdom of his first 50 years in this book. We'll all look forward to coming back in exactly 50 years from today for the sequel to this book, but it's a wonderful read, and Selva, all your friends are incredibly proud of you today. Thank you, Simon.
Jeremy.
Thank you very much, Jeremy, and absolutely, I think everyone who knows you, Selva, and all of your friends, we are incredibly proud of everything you've done, and this book is just another great chapter in your life. And talking of chapters, we're now going to ask Selva to talk about his favourite one in the book and why it's his favourite one, and tell us a little bit more about it.
Thank you, Simon. I'll probably sort of talk about sort of all of the sort of chapters and specific points. I know Caroline wanted me to pick one chapter when she was programming it, and but I think there is one single chapter I cannot say it's good. But I was just sort of, as I said, I'll just pick up a chapter when the question comes, and it came, the gratitude, the chapter 5 came into my mind, and obviously given the desire and the attitude and the decisions, they are all absolutely essential to whatever we wanted to achieve. I mean, desire is absolutely key, because we need to have that burning desire to do whatever that we wanted to do. Whether it could be a business, whether it could be a family, it could be politics, it could be anything, that once you set that burning desire, the laws of nature will get it. As long as the research again says, as long as you're doing certain things in a certain way every day, and things will come together, and you wouldn't know, because it's all intangible. Things will be happening while we are speaking, whatever the desire. All of us have said that we must have that. And on the back of that, I think I'll just read one paragraph. And Dad always said that there are so many people who have received perhaps a gift for their desire and for their action. Obviously, action is absolutely important. No action, nothing will happen. And you can't just have empty dreams. You've got to take action. You've got to take action now. And Dad always said that. So, but they make something after that, which is very interesting. They cut the wires, he has said. And what does he mean by cut the wires? They just believe that they do not need to have gratitude for what they have achieved. If I repeat it again. So they have the desire, they take action, they go after it, they got it. So I always say, and I've said that to Jeremy a couple of times, the desire will get you to the position, and sometimes the character will keep you at the position. And on that point, and what happens is they cut the wires. They just believe that they do not need to have gratitude for what they have achieved. So they fail to make that acknowledgement of nature, and that's where the laws of nature then kicks in. But making that acknowledgement, having that connection, and then deeply feeling that gratitude is critical. Not just simply saying thank you very much, but deeply feeling that gratitude in every cell of your body. And I think we hear a lot of thank you, and if those thank yous are flattering words, Dad said, no point. Nothing will happen. And if you flatter someone for the sake of saying thank you or wonderful, that's okay, that's very polite and all the rest of it. But if you are going after your desires, and if you are going after, if the nature needs to help you, you've got to be deeply feeling that gratitude. And the key is every cell of your body. And when you say every cell of the body, effectively means that you're emotionalizing it. That is the bit that nature will absorb and understand. Is on page 48, I'm reading. Not just mere words without feelings or emotions. For me, that sort of came out. Again, it was very spontaneous. I told Caroline, I'm not going to prepare this. I'm just going to pick up a piece when the question Simon asked me, and that's where it came. But on that gratitude, the one gratitude I love to share, the gratitude to this wonderful, wonderful nation, United Kingdom. I just cannot thank. I think probably every cell of the body might be a less of an explanation. Every atom of the body and every piece of me and my family. This country gave me everything. This country gave me everything, and I must.
Selva, thank you.
I will, and I will give everything I've got.
That's very clear. Anyone who knows you very well, it's very clear that you have this incredible zest and enthusiasm for helping and supporting other people. And that's always been a very important part of what you and Tarshini have set out to do with the Regent group. And it's very inspiring to see the young people coming through there who've received the benefit of your support and help and wisdom. And wisdom moves me really on to the next speaker. Because the other thing you've done, Selva, is surrounded yourself with friends by accident, I think, who just happen to be great characters, which is very core to your book, who have a lot of fun together. But one or two of them have turned out to be quite wise and intelligent as well, which is quite interesting. And our next speaker is Dr. Maurizio Bragani, a great friend of us all, who I know was very helpful in giving you some comments and views on the book as you were putting it together. And Maurizio is just going to give a few words about learning from the past.
Thanks for your words, Simon, and thanks, Selva, for the invitation. As you know, I don't believe in coincidence. I only believe in miracles. And I don't think that that was just a coincidence that Selva surrounded by himself by good people. I always believe that a good person normally surrounded by himself by good people. And that is what we found in Selva. And that was a great enthusiasm that Selva put in everything. Reading the book, what I found it very interesting is that you put a central element on the desire. And in all my life, and all my experience as a father, but also as an entrepreneur, what is the evidence of my certainty? What is the certainty of my life? Is our own desire. And the great intuition of Selva was to take this simple evidence of a human being and transform that in a path of behavior and character. And in the describe his own path with his own learning path with his father, is also give us a simple key that we know as a father and as a parents to all our children, that the most important age and the most important time that our children spend for their own education is the time that they spend with their own parents. We are the one that we create, or we are the one that we can transform their character and behavior. And if you think our own history and our own experience, we are the fruit of the education that we have received from our own parents. And in reading the book, Selva, I have to thank you because you have remind me an old sentence of Cicero, one of my favorite writer, and it's a Roman one. Cicero said, everyone knows only that history is magistra vitae, but Cicero in reality said a very long piece, that is, history est testi temporum, lux veritatis, vita memoria, magistra vitae, nuntia vetustatis. So the history is also the one that is announcing the time and the future. And learning from the past, as you have described, or learning from that is what you have put in your book, is this a journey that every one of us can do it in his own past, in his own relationship with the Father, and to keep what are the elements that really build our character and behavior. And I have to thank you because you have given me the opportunity to do it this journey again, and to refresh my memory, and also to in a proper way to understand what have really built my personality. So I have to thank you again for this opportunity on reading your book. That was a journey of my own life. Thank you.
Thank you. So before we go on to our next speaker, we had a few questions that have come in from people directly who want to get your view on things, Selva. So the first one was from Anshul Gupta, and he says, what advice would you give to aspiring authors?
Thank you, Anshul, for that question. I think go with the passion. I think it's all about the passion, and I think if you know that, and there's the saying that there is a book in everyone, they say. So all of us in this call can write a book, but write a book in where your passion is, because then the words will come. You will attach your emotions to it, and it'll be your work, and then you'll enjoy it. And I think the key for that is, since 22nd of March lockdown, I really enjoyed putting this together, and I think the joy of bringing these ideas. So my view is actually, happy to chat to you, one-to-one as well. I would just say go with the passion, and I think a good piece of picture will emerge at the end, and that will be a book or whatever you want to do.
That's good advice. I think there is a book in everyone. like most people, never got time to sit down and do it. I must follow your lead and do it one day. And the next question was from Mahendra Shin. And he said, look, of all the questions you asked your father, which was the most remarkable answer that he ever gave you?
Thank you, Mahendraji, and thank you for coming along on the call. I think if I just sort of slightly answer that differently, I think the unconditional love he gave me and the ability to consume that unconditional love was something that is the best advice my dad gave me. And I love to give that to my girls. And it is a journey. He has done that perfectly for me. He's a great man, and he had a great ability. He's incredibly a calm character. Obviously, I'm learning it from him. But I think if you just ask me, if I may answer that, the best answer is he gave me that unconditional love. And that has really made me to do what I have done up to this time of my life, and to put this book together and call The Power of Learning from Dad, and then connect the desire, attitude, and decision with something profound to all of us. So that's what I would say. I hope I've answered the question.
So we're going to go to our next speaker now, contributor, another very wise friend of yours, Professor George Holmes, who's the Vice Chancellor of Bolton University, a wonderful establishment. And I can only imagine, George, how busy you are at the moment. We'll not talk about politics, but I can imagine you and your team have had a hectic and frenetic few days. But thank you for joining us. And George is going to speak about the importance of desire, attitude, and decision.
Okay, well, good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great privilege for me to be invited to speak on Selva's 50th birthday and the launch of his second book. So first, if I can add my congratulations to Selva on reaching that fine wine mature age of 50. And hope that he has a good celebration today. And what a great way to start with your friends and your supporters. So congratulations to you on that, Selva. I've been waiting for this for a long time, and what I've been waiting for a long time to speak at an event like this was that I have, during the Zoom period, watched with massive interest the great, the learned and the good on Zoom calls and on television and on their dial-ins across the country. And I've waited for my moment to get that, where I, like others, can demonstrate the rigour and the strength of my learned background by referring to my bookcase. And that's why I've waited so long for this, because look at that bookcase. It has the two books in it that are authored by our man this morning, by Dr Selva there, in terms of the Thinking into Character and today's book, Learning from Dad. And there can't be anybody else who's transmitted across the world today who has that exclusive two books in their bookcase presented to me or to them by the author himself. And so in that sense, I'm really grateful. And this will be my backdrop now for all future Zoom calls for the rest of this coronavirus lockdown, until, of course, I add a third. So I've taken the view that I'm not adding anything to my bookcase unless it's written by Selva, and that's the way it's going to be. And so we've developed, I was looking as Maurizio, as His Excellency was speaking, and as he was moving beautifully through into Latin and potentially into a very traditional language there, I thought, at school they used to say to me, vitae sine litteris somnus, life without literature is sleep. And in that sense, Selva is illuminating and waking us up with these two particular works, and particularly the work today about learning from Dad. And Dad is really very important to me. My father's contribution was massively important, and I can see the impact that Selva's father has had on his life and that of his family, and the success that's come from that. And that unconditional love combined with the gratitude for that is part of that key, I think, to what Selva's talking about. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the three areas of desire, attitude and decision, because that was the brief that I was given. But in many ways, before that, I'm going to talk about the great partnership that Selva and I have developed between the Regent's group, the emerging Regent Hill University of London, and my own university here in Bolton, of which we are proud to have Selva as a doctor of that university, as an honorary graduate of that university. And that great partnership has really built together to give access to higher education opportunities, to learning opportunities, to literature, to life opportunities, to people from the widest and most diverse backgrounds. And that's demonstrated by the remarkable student cohorts that we both have. I'm proud to be the Vice Chancellor of one of the most diverse, arguably the most diverse university in Britain in terms of its depth and breadth. And Selva adds to that in London in terms of his student population. And this book and the contribution that Selva's making to learning is going to make a massive difference to thousands and thousands and thousands of people's lives through the next 10, 15, 20 years of the partnership between our two organisations. And so I'm grateful for that partnership, that extension, but moreover, thousands of people will be Selva. And the Thinking into Character programme, and now the Learning from Dad programme, is being integrated, I know, into lots and lots of those student programmes to change people's lives. I'm conscious in the partnership that this morning I chose to wear glasses, A, because I can't see the screen otherwise, but also B, because when you look at us, I see an awful lot of similarity between another great partnership in terms of if I do this, you might well get what I'm talking about in terms of the two of us, the Morecambe and Wise of higher education, Selva and I. And of course, you will remember that Ernie Wise used to write lots of books. And so in that sense, there is a lot of similarity between us in that Selva is clearly the thoughtful, considered, straight man of this partnership who does things properly, and then I'm the clown that wanders about alongside him. And it's great to be your Morecambe to your Wise, Selva, because you certainly are very wise. So I appreciate working with you. Let's have a look then at when Simon said to me, I'd like you to talk about burning desire, George. I thought, well, this is going to be an interesting talk because clearly I had probably something different in mind to what I read in the book when we talked about burning desire. But I'm told by Selva, by our learned author, that it is a state of mind which is defined by him, which becomes an obsession, a desire. And I thought, oh, he's talking about what I was talking about in the first place with Simon. That burning desire or desire is a state of mind which becomes an obsession. And that's really very clear with the emerging Regent Hill University for Selva, that it has become an obsession with him to deliver this. And I thought I can resonate, I can really resonate with this, that my own university, where I've now been Vice Chancellor for over 15 years, has become an obsession, and the desire to make it successful and desire to succeed for that institution in the same way that Selva has a desire not to succeed for himself, but to succeed for those he helps and to succeed for the institution that he's building is centrally important to that first stage in success. So that state of mind becoming an obsession is very clearly set out in that chapter, and I do commend it to people. But of course, what I have learned, and I've learned it myself, that the second part of this trilogy, the attitudes towards life will determine life's attitude towards you, which is what Selva's dad and book says around that, is very, very important too, I think, because it's almost the karma element of life, that there is a karma to this, that your attitude to life will determine life's attitude towards us, ourselves, but not if we do it for the purpose of getting that result, but rather that we take a positive mental attitude to what we want to achieve and what we want to do for others in life. And it's more when you read about Selva's work, and it is humbling to see how Selva works, because his attitude to life is about helping others. His attitude to life is about doing it for others rather than doing it for himself, and that then determines how people respond and how the world responds to him. And finally, decision making. I mean, we've all seen remarkable evidence recently of decision making that may well have gone slightly wrong on the national front in terms of our own higher education sector. But the chapter talks about the importance of making decisions and changing them slowly. And if there'd ever been an illustration this week of the importance of changing decisions slowly and reflecting on the impact and looking downstream at the unintended consequences of a decision change, how much more better could that have been illustrated than I think one would say QED, quod erat demonstrandum. There it stands demonstrated that one should change one's decisions very slowly, very carefully, and not necessarily, as Selva points out, be influenced by the opinions of others, particularly when they're bombarding you in the media, as they currently are at the minute in terms of the decision making. So there's an enormous amount in this little volume, this very light volume that speaks volumes, that adorns my bookshelf behind me there, that one's desire and obsession to make some changes in life, underpinned by an attitude which will determine the attitude of others to you, and the ability to make decisions, but then to slowly reflect on those decisions in terms of changing, because if you make too many changes, as we've seen, there can be all sorts of unintended consequences. So my gratitude to you, Selva, and to those who have indulged me by listening to me this morning, for producing this great work. It's wonderful to have a copy that's been signed by you. I'm prepared to auction it later for the Conservative Party. I've declared my politics there, Jeremy, I'm afraid, but they are well and truly nailed to the mast. That I'm very happy to auction that book with an author's signature uniquely to his colleague Morecambe in the Morecambe and Wise partnership. To me, it's been a great pleasure to testify to the success of your approach to higher education, that your obsession and your attitude and your decision making has resulted in me being very grateful to you for the work you're doing for us and for our students. And I just want to congratulate you and to hope that I've done my bit to support you in this particular endeavour. And thank you all for taking time to listen to me so intently. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Thank you very much, George. Such really, really good and poignant words there. And a senior politician did ask me recently if you were the only Conservative Vice Chancellor in the whole of the UK, and I said I couldn't think of another one, but who knows? Who knows? That was really, really good to hear, and thank you very much for your thoughts. So clearly put forward as well. Thank you, George. A couple of other questions now. One from Ronel, another great friend of ours who's actually online. Ronel, do you want to ask your question directly?
Thank you, Simon, and thank you, Selva, for putting on such an amazing. Lovely to see Jeremy Hunt as well, Maurizio, and many of your friends. I think a tear started rolling down my eye when you were speaking about your father, because I lost mine 24 years ago, and there isn't a day I don't miss him. But my question really was, what would you say to young people who still have their father, that they should be asking them today? We hear a lot about parents telling their offspring what to do in life, to get a job, find employment. There are lots of people who are very worried at the moment. You came to this country with nothing, and you're a great inspiration to many of those who are worried about where their future lies now. And I always say, look at those who arrived in this country with nothing and have actually made a success of their lives. So the advice, my question, I framed it a bit in more detail, is what would, if you're lucky enough to have your father today, what advice should you be asking your father for right now? What are the things that you should be asking, not to be morbid, but before it's too late?
Thank you, Ronald, for that question. And thank you for all the support you have given me in writing this book. And thank you particularly to Claire as well. I think, I remember Dad saying this once, you can only give what you got. So for those parents or those fathers, what they are sharing with their children at the time, based on their awareness and their understanding of laws of nature. And then as children, and the children may not fully appreciate at the time, but they can only give what they got. But there is a danger to it. If they are operating in the sense of, I'm not saying ignorance comes from the word ignore. They have ignored some of these laws of nature because of their environment or what they have learned. And in that, it may become an opinion as well. So whatever your parents are saying, yes, we must respect them. But even my dad said that don't consider everything I say, because he said, sorry, let me rephrase that. What he said, don't accept everything I say, but please consider it. Don't reject it. And I say that perhaps that's what we'll have to think about. So we'll have to consider it. If then that piece of advice aligns with my alignment to, or the young person you're talking about, align to them, then take it forward. Because they are your parents, doesn't mean they know everything for you, because you are an individual. You are the only person in this world who you are. Nobody else can repeat that. So I think perhaps that's what we need to see. And the book talks about that and makes you, you are a unique person. Respect, consider it. But if it's not right, reject it too. Because I think a lot of generationally, we do things because other people have done that. I say that all the time. We, as Asian families, we eat rice. And if somebody asks me, why do you eat rice? My parents said, why did you eat rice? And it's 1,000 years ago, somebody said to eat rice, and we are still eating rice. And is it the right thing to do? Yes, it is, as long as it resonates with me. If I feel I don't want to eat rice and I wanted to do something else, that's okay. But the parents should not come and say, oh, why are you doing like this? And, we all have done that to our children when they say that. So perhaps I've answered the question, Ronald, in a rounded way, but that's what I would say. But be who you are and work with your passion.
That was really helpful. I've never forgotten one of my clients told a story that his daughter came downstairs to say that at 6, she's going to be 16 tomorrow and she's moving out. And the father said, that will be fine. Could you move out by 9 o'clock in the morning, because I want to rent your room out. His wife burst into tears and screamed at the husband, saying, how can you treat your daughter like that? This is an absolute outrage. You're driving her out the property. Well, she walked up the stairs, and of course she never did leave.
There you go. Next question is from Trevor Messon, who also I think is on the video call. So Trevor, if you would like to ask your question.
Yes, okay, thank you.
There you are.
Right. I didn't have the opportunity to read the book, but Thinking in Character, 21 chapters, was a very powerful book. And I actually ordered your new book, and my grandson said to me, why are you buying another book? And I thought, oh, that's a point. Let me pose a question to the author. What's the value between this book compared to Thinking in a Character that I believe is an excellent book?
Thank you, Trevor, for that. Thinking into Character spends a lot of time about the character, as you know, and you teach that to our students, and thank you for all the work that you do for our students. And it is a process of that character. But the power of learning from Dad we are doing there is to really go into fundamentally the 13 principles of Napoleon Hill. And those 13 principles are going to drive the Regent University. And we are bringing some humor of this dad story, which is sort of talking about my dad. So it is a combination of all of that. But I would say it supplements Thinking into Character and, looking at things in different aspects and different ways. And as you know, Travis teaches, you explain things in one way. A particular audience will understand that very well. Sometimes you need to go and explain things in a different way. Another set of audience will understand that. And giving that dad, makes people to think, whoa, what's this all about? And, how do I? And then there's emotions attached to it. The key is to bring the emotions. And I think you will see a lot of similarities. The concept, the thread doesn't change. The end result of education's character, the thread doesn't change. But I'm finding ways to get to different people in different ways where I can touch the emotions, which is the EQ rather than the IQ. Because I think the IQ is what our education system is doing a wonderful job, and that comes back to our inside-out education. So it is another way And I'm not saying this is, this is another way, and there are many other ways, and many other authors and teachers have done that, and I'm trying to do in a different way. I'll keep on doing it. I'll probably do it slightly differently in the future, based on feedback and based on all of your feedback, Trevor, how students are responding, and perhaps that's the best way I can say I can differentiate. It is not widely different at all. The fundamentals are the same. That inside-out education, working from your intellectual capabilities, understanding the laws of nature. How do you achieve whatever you want to achieve, but without violating the rights of others? That's the key.
Thank you very much. We also have a question from Rishika, who I think is also on the call. Rishika, would you like to ask your question, or would you prefer me to ask it for you?
Rishika, do you want to ask the question? Rishika is our HR human capital assistant who works with Tarshan. So Rishika, do you want to ask the question?
Hi, Selva.
Hi.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And many congratulations on the new launch of this book. Heartiest congratulations. Okay, so my question, basically I have written down 3-4 questions. If you could help me, Simon, which two I posted?
Well, the one that you wanted to ask is, what kind of research do you do, and how long do you spend researching for the book?
Yes.
Thank you, Rishika. I think it's I'll probably say, I actually learned this from once. I remember, I think if you listen to Warren Buffett, and he says, he reads and studies. I think he does about 3 or 4 hours a day studying various books and various things, and that really resonated with me. So I now study at least sort of 2 to 3 hours in many ways, listening to various lectures and reading books and thinking about things. And that's my typical day. Even when I'm trying to do my exercise, I'll be listening to some stuff. But I don't necessarily sort of work towards you just accumulate all these ideas into the pot. And then you just start to formulate your own picture and how you want to picture it. So I think it is an art. I would say it's like if you ask an artist, how do you draw that picture? And I think the best one to say is Van Gogh. They ask him, how do you make all these beautiful pictures? He said, I dream my painting and I paint my dreams. So I dream about some of these ideas and then I sleep on it, and then I get up and I record and write. And so it's very much spontaneous, I would say. But I think the key for me now is, something we encourage all our students is to, I think, read, but read with emotions. Don't just read for the sake of reading. I think you can do that to improve your vocabulary and all the rest of it. That's very important. But I think if you have a passion for something, like George knows, we have passion for wine. So we read about that, but instead of reading, I think perhaps we are drinking about it. And so that's what I would say. Just perhaps that answers the question.
Thank you, Selva. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Selva. And certainly I have a passion for wine as well, but I haven't started writing about it yet. The next question is from John York, who also is on the call.
First of all, congratulations to Selva on his 50th birthday, and a wonderful book he's written about his dad. And I think the question was what really inspired him? What's so specific about his dad that really inspired him to have this motivation to write this book, is what I was intrigued to find out.
Thank you, John.
I think that was the question I asked, am I right?
Exactly, yeah.
That's right. Thank you, John. I think it goes back to that first answer I gave, that unconditional love. And then bringing some of these ideas of neuroscience and psychology and human potential and human behavior. How do I bring that emotion part to it? And how can I reach out to every human being? Because every one of us got a dad and a mom. And therefore, in some shape or form, that will connect their emotions rather than just on we all studied loads of business books which talks about various models and things like that. But then emotion is something you can only connect with. You touch certain things, the emotion flares up. And because I was emotionally involved with him and losing him in that accident in 2006, that was devastating. And I think, I was knocked out of the park, and I think that made a huge change in my life, and made so many emotional changes. I can't even revert back that experience of the shock of losing him. At 12 o'clock, I spoke to him. 12:30, he's gone. And that was really, so that's what I would say. So going back to that point, John, I would say that unconditional love, and then what can I learn from that, and what can I give it back on my 50th? I'm ever so grateful for that unconditional love I am giving for this country, and that's the first thing I will learn from my dad and give it back. And I'm very passionate to really do that, and I'm sure somebody else in the future will write, bringing the country into some of these things. Who knows? Lots of ideas will come when you're listening to other people. So perhaps I've answered the question. And in fact, I like to thank John. John is also involved. He was born in Sri Lanka, and he's trying to bring the Sri Lankan Tamil and the Sinhalese community together. He's the chairman of the Conservative Friends of Sri Lanka, and he has been very supportive for us to forgive and move on, because we all suffered, or the Sri Lanka suffered as a result of the war. And as most of you know, we do Global Unity Dinner, which we couldn't do this year, and Simon, Maurizio, and George, who's Honourable, has been very supportive for that, and we'll continue to do that in the spirit of harmony and forgiveness. And again, these kind of books perhaps will reach out to those decision makers in Sri Lanka from both sides of the camp to say, maybe we can forgive, maybe we can move on, rather than keep having that division. And I think John does a good job. And John, thank you for the things that you do through Conservative Party. As George said, I'm a Conservative, my dad was a Conservative, and I'm proud to be one. And I'll say that every time because that's who I am, and I want to proudly say that. And that's all I've got to say on that, John. Thank you.
Thank you, Selva, and we are all proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. And Selva, you and Tarshini started this wonderful Global Unity Dinner, and it does what it says. It brings people together in unity. And I have to say that we all missed it this year. I know it couldn't happen, so we're very much looking forward. In fact, it's one of the highlights of my year, and I'm hoping that next year the circumstances will allow us all to get together. Another question now. We have just a couple of questions left. And one is from Hang Kwek, who is also on the call. So Hang, if you're there, would you like to ask your question?
I prefer you ask it for me, because this question I've been wanting to ask Dr. Selva, but I don't know how to approach him, because I've been reading and listening to the Thinking into Character. Is really good, but I'm not sure is it only for the young people, because to me I'm quite elderly already. Maybe does it too late for me, but actually by reading through this Thinking into Character program, I did change a lot. Thank you. I would prefer you to ask me.
Yeah, so the question is very simple one, Selva, and thank you, Hang. The question is the Thinking into Character program only suitable for young learners?
Thank you for the question. I think the Thinking into Character and the Power of Learning from that, it's for all of us. It's all about the awareness level that we are in. Age may have an element of maturity towards your sixth senses and so on, but it's not just for youngsters. It's for all of us, and and that's one of the reasons we were able to talk about the power of learning from Dad. And perhaps the answer is in the question. If all of us have a dad, this book will help them. And Thinking into Character is effectively our power of learning from Dad, effectively an extension of Thinking into Character. And just to answer the question directly, it is for everybody. It's anyone who has got an open mind. If they have closed minds, again, they will absorb it, but the objective is they will consider it. They may not consider it on the first reading of it, but the objective is the desire for us is, as Regent University, as George said, as Regent team, for us, at some point they will consider it. They'll say, I read that. Maybe that didn't resonate to me then. I can now connect the dots, as Steve Jobs says, you can connect the dots backwards, you can only connect the dots you can only connect the dots backwards. You cannot connect the dot forward, but you got to believe the dots will connect. So our belief is the dots will connect.
Thank you. And our final question is from Radha, who is on the call as well. If you'd like to ask your question, or I can ask it for you.
Hi, Selva. This is Radha. I just want to congratulate and happy birthday on your 50th. I just want to ask you, obviously you're growing up in Batticaloa in the remote part of Sri Lanka, and your upbringing in that environment, where I know that you were very close to your dad at the time. I just wanted to know how that affected your current thinking and the way you go about your life in the present moment. Thanks.
Thank you, Radha. So just to introduce Radha, we did A-levels together in Sri Lanka. So he's calling from Sydney, and thank you for coming along from Sydney. And I would say, Radha, I think my life changed when I left in 1990. I'm talking about it was a emotional change for me when we left Sri Lanka. As Jeremy said, my parents gave me everything. It was one of the best lives I had. And as you know, Radha, in my final A-levels, I enjoyed too much. And my daughters tells me that the fall of A-levels is not because of the war. The fall of A-levels is I enjoyed too much and doing whatever I did. So therefore, I think coming to the United Kingdom, that was the best thing ever happened in my life. And as I said, this country adopted me. And for me, I'm always proud to say I'm a British, and it's in every cell of my body now. And that's my emotions. And I'm not going to say anything bad about my country I was born in. I'm grateful I was born there. But I think my adopted country is everything for me. And my adopted country gave me everything for 30 years. And I came and I started my life as a cleaner in a mental hospital. And this country gave me everything. And if I talk about gratitude, if I don't have that gratitude, then I'll be a true hypocrite of writing and not feeling. So therefore, I learned a lot from Dad, and Dad joined, as you know, in 1994. He didn't want to leave because he didn't want to leave his mother. He was very close to his mother, and he said he's not going to leave her in the midst of war. And I vividly remember Grandma telling him, and that's why he left in 1994. He wouldn't have left otherwise. He said, "You have lived for me and our family." He lived for their family, and I must say proudly. But now you've got to live for your son and his wife and your wife. And that one word he said, "All right then, book the ticket." And then he left everything and he came, and he never looked back. And he's a great patriot of the United Kingdom as well. He studied under the British, and we all are. So that's what I'll say, Radha. But I have got my roots back. I want to unite Sri Lanka, the Tamils and the Sinhalese. We are doing that, and I think the three prime ministers in this country have supported us. It started with David Cameron, who has been so supportive, and I cannot thank more to Theresa May. And every year she gives our personal message, and she has been so supportive to me and Darshini to bring that unity. And I'm sure Boris will do the same, and any future prime ministers, I'm sure will do the same, and whoever listening. And that's all I'll say. I hope I have answered the question. But thank you for coming on board. But I will do my part to where I was born in Sri Lanka. I will do the part, but I'll do my part in unity. I don't agree the way that we have divided our country, and therefore I'll do my part as a proud British with a Sri Lankan heritage.
So a message there for any future prime ministers who may happen to be on the video call at the moment. So anyone with that ambition, you know what's expected of you. There's one or two other questions that have come in, and I'm sorry we haven't had time to address them on this call, but I will make sure they're passed to Selva, and we'll get back with the answers. There's just one comment, if you like, not a question, that came from one of Selva's friends in the US, which I think, Selva, from Sam, you may wish to read out, I think.
Oh, thank you, Simon. And Sam is my cousin's wife's brother, and he's a great man. He's in Boston, and he talks about, and it's interesting, this text came, and he said, dear Pankaj, they call me Pankaj, and by the way, in my other life, first of all, congratulations on your book launch in the honor of your dad. I wish I was there to celebrate this occasion with you, but the distance and pandemic are keeping me away from participation. This is a well-deserved tribute to Selva Uncle, they call it, Senior, whom I have met several times and had the privilege to interact with and discuss and challenge one faces in their lives. He's a very pleasant, smart, and humble man, and I treasure and enjoyed the conversations and definitely learned a lot from him, and dearly miss meeting him every time I visit the United Kingdom. Selva Uncle, by the way, it's not me. Besides his astute nature, he's a philanthropist who had a very kind heart to help others by sharing his wealth. Your willingness to share your own experiences with your dad, to help others and provide guidance to succeed in their own lives, is remarkable and a commendable, great service to the community at large. Sam Thiagalingam, he's from the University of Massachusetts in Boston.
Thank you, Selva. Lovely words, and I'm inspired now to change and edit your phone number in my phone to Selva Uncle. I think that would be a great way of you coming up in future. So we've nearly come to the end. Just a couple of things to do. One is that Selva has signed 5 copies of his book, and we wanted to give them away at random to people who joined the call. And 5 names have been picked by random automatically. I don't know how it was done, and I've got them in front of me. So there's Winifred, Tanya, Bella, Zalia, and Andra. All are going to be proud owners of Selva's signed book. And Caroline will be in touch with you. We need, obviously, a postal address so we can get it out to you. And thank you very much, Selva, for doing that. So I'm just going to wrap up by just saying what, so many people have said to me, what a great honor it is to be involved in this today, and to thank our speakers who have given so many thought-provoking things for us to consider. And Selva, for the book and for your contribution to life in the UK, which is very inspiring and brings us all to a point where we think, well, there must be more we can do in life. And I think that's the inspiration is about, what more can we do?